Okay. So the topic that we were discussing last time is called system development life cycle. In system development life cycle, we are going to discuss how information systems are developed. Now in grade 10, for example, you have learned Microsoft Word, Microsoft Excel, PowerPoint. You use these software applications for various tasks. But then if you think like how you are going to create or build this system, we should know the process. අපි 10දී ඉගෙන ගත්ත Word, Excel, PowerPoint වගේ වැඩසටහන් නිර්මාණය කරන්නේ කොහොමද කියන එක ඒ නිර්මාණය කිරීමේ පියවරවල් තමයි අපි මේ පාඩමේ කතා කරන්න යන්නේ. So before we talk about system, information systems, we should discuss what a system is. So when you take a system, you can see other related components and they interact each other for a particular objective, right? When you take, for example, a school system, we have students, we have teachers, we have administrative officers, we have parents, we have all boys, all girls. So there are a lot of interactions happens, right? Then we will have the school system. So any system, you can identify three things. That is input, process, and output, right? So you will have three things, always input, output, and process. Right? Now, when you take a school system, right, we know that input will be the children. You go to school in grade 1 and you have a very limited knowledge. Interactions were limited, but at the end of school period, you will actually molded to be a good citizen for the society. Now, how did this happens? So we need to transform these children, right, at your young age into a responsible, worthwhile citizens to the society. Now, to do that, we have to do a lot of other activities. So we have to have resources, like physical resources, like laboratories, like science labs, home science labs. There are different laboratories. We do experiments, right, to understand whatever the concepts that we have learned in the subjects. You have to have buildings, right? You have to have classrooms, assembly, right? Dance rooms, music rooms, right? You need those resources. And then you have to have human resources as well. We have to have teachers, we have to have principals, right? So they are the ones who are going to conduct these different activities like teaching, sports, right? And then you go for debating competitions, right? And then you have opportunity to interact with the other students. So that will mold you to become a responsible citizen to the society. You learn ethics, right? Especially work ethics, like how do you work? And maybe you will learn to become entrepreneurs, right? Right. Now, having said that, the information systems, so what is an information system? So in information system, as we can discuss earlier, we also have data, process, and information. And for that, we have, 5 things. Usually we have people. There are various peoples involved in information system. Then we have data, then equipments, technology, so which all comprises of information system. So information system compared to system actually supports for information needs. That be කලින් කතා කරපු පද්ධතිත් එක බලද්දි තොරතුරු පද්ධති information system කියන එකේදී අපේ information requirements වලට තමයි support කරන්නේ. So for example, principal has a different information requirement. Administrative officers, they have different information requirements. Same goes with your sectional heads, prefects, students, parents, and even all boys and all girls. Right. But these information system could be in two different types. First, we have manual systems. Second, we have computer-based information systems. Right? So we have to have manual systems. In manual system, especially, some of the schools operate in manually, meaning like, everything is recorded. The information requirements are recorded manually by humans. So we will create files, folders, we put up them into cupboards and so on. Right? Now, there are a lot of issues in this way, doing this in manual, accuracy will be low, efficiency will be low, which means it will take a lot of time, right? But if you can have computer-based information systems, and this is the recent trend, we can retrieve whatever the information very quickly. So let's look at what are the, differences. So when you compare manual system with the computer-based information system, the first point, in manual system, processing is done by humans. What it means, like humans are involved in manual systems. If you do not have a computer-based information system at the school, yes, your school officer will record everything by hand, right? And when you want to search information, somebody has to bring the file, go through the file, and manually they have to, find required information. But then if you have a computer-based information system, things will be slightly different. Everything done by a computer program, and this is written previously, and then you can use it. So in manual systems, since humans are working, accuracy will be low. I mean, humans tend to make mistakes. Whereas in computer-based information system, it is done by a computer program. This is written earlier, tested, debugged, right? And so accuracy is high. I mean, especially it's a repetitive task. Repetitive means if you're going to do this again and again, then computer-based information systems are the best. And same goes with the efficiency. Now, humans, for example, you can't work for hours. You will get hungry, you will get thirsty, you will get colds, you get other disturbances, right? Other commitments. So efficiency will be low when it compared to computer systems. In computer systems, they can work for 24/7, meaning all 24 hours in all 7 days of a week, which is very efficient. And that's why, and most of the places now you will see, instead of humans, the robots are replaced because that is efficient. It is cost effective as well. If you take manual systems, again, when you want to store these files, because you are working in file-based systems, you need a large space. In computer-based systems, in other hand, you need a very small space, right? For example, if you take a school library system, you need a building, you need cupboards, you need staff to hold the files. But if you take a digital library that you will have ebooks, maybe the whole library you can put into a pen drive, which is very useful, isn't it? And if you want to copy the library, you can just buy copy and paste. In manual system, another problem would be the data is not safe. Sometimes the animal can harm these files, right? Even the humans can harm them, right? Someone can steal information, right? So data is usually, we say, not safe when it comes to manual systems. But if you take computer-based systems, usually security to be high because you can create copies, we call backups. For example, every day, every minute, you can make backups so that you are not going to lose information in case of a catastrophic failure, like power cut, a fire, right? A flood, nothing can be, affect if you have a compute-based system. You can have encryption. The encryption means, uh, when the data is steal somebody, they cannot read it. We will encrypt them. We will mask them so that nobody can read your, data. And you can use password. Now, for example, some of the Word files, PDF file, when you open it, it has a password. So you can password protect so that only authorized users can use this information in the computer-based system. Right. So those are the comparison of manual and computer-based system. Okay, as the next one, I would like to look at what the system development process is. Now, when you talk about the system development process, we will talk about system development life cycle, right? What do you mean by life cycle? Yes, Yanula? What do you mean by life cycle? You see here, we can see, right? Life cycle of a butterfly, or we call butterfly life cycle, which means you will see these different stages, right? Starting from the eggs, we have caterpillar, right? We have pupa, right? And then we have butterfly. We can see, different stages. Okay. Now, similar thing can go for information life cycle as well. We are going to look at what are the phases, right? So let's look at what are the different phases. We discussed how to plan and how to create, how to test, how to deploy information system. Okay, now when you look at information system life cycle, these are the phases that you are going to discuss. You are going to identify of requirements. Now, before you build a system, you need to know what are the requirements. Now, for example, let's say you are going to develop an information system for a school. Now, for that, we need to understand different requirements. Now, what principal needs is different from what sectional head needs. For example, in day-to-day operations, principal wants to know like how many students were present today, how many teachers were present today, right? What are the equipments? How many buildings are there? Like that might be the what principal wants. Now, sectional head might want to know their, performance of students in their sections. Teachers want to know like how their student performance in their respective classes, right? And then maybe the students want to know their performance, right? Parents want to know their children performance. All boys want to know how school is doing, where the financial needs are, right? Different information requirements. So first of all, we need to identify, we need to discuss what are the techniques available for this. Then we need to design a solution. Like, let's say if you want to build a house, right? Once you have the requirements from your family members, father might need, different requirements, mother need different requirements, your extended family, your mother's father might need other different requirements, and you might have another, requirements and so on. So once you collect everything, you need to design. Then you have to code in the solution, or we call implementation, right? We need to implement the solution. So we have to see how to build the information system. For that, we have to identify different software requirements, hardware requirements, and then you have to build the system. Now, once you build the system, you need to test. Now, that is what did when you do practicals. Remember, when you do Pascal coding, right? You type the code, you compile it. When you get errors, you try to find them, you try to correct them. And once you do that, that is what we call debugging. Then you do the testing. You put known values, and then you see whether you are getting the correct answer, right? So these things that we have discussed under that. Then comes the deployment. Now up to fourth number, this part is doing somebody else, maybe you as the designer, maybe another software company, who builds the system. So the deployment means once you finish, and let's say the school staff is happy, then we need to put into a machine, right? If principal wants to have the system in a computer in his office, we can put it there. We call deployment, right? And then comes maintenance. Maintenance means, like, your requirements will be different. There could be errors while you work with the system. So we need to properly maintain the system, right? So these are the things that we are mainly going to discuss, right? So let's start with the first one. The first one is identification of requirements. Now, when you say identification of requirements, there could be many ways to do this, right? Now, when you say identification of requirements, usually you need to know what are the objectives of the system. What are the objectives of the system? What are the vision and mission? Because any information system should meet the requirements, right? And we also need to compare what might, what benefits might you get compared to manual system, right? But to collect this requirement, you need to, find out, or we have to use different techniques, like observation in one thing, right? That means if the development team, if they don't have a clue what is happening in a system, they can just observe, and they can note it down what is happening. Now, for example, let's say we want to build a system in a library. And let's say you don't know what is happening, you can just observe. So you can observe, okay, people come in, they search for books, they'll get books, they will return books, they'll, get fines and so on, right? So that's what we call observation. It's a technique where we can use to gather information. Then you can have interviews. Now, when you say interviews, it will take quite a lot of time. Like you meet a people and get details in. Now, for that, you usually meet top people, maybe manager, right? In a school system, maybe you meet the principal and other very important, personnel for the system. And in a library situation, you can meet the librarian, for example, and you can get in detail in the requirements for the system. The third one is questionnaires. Let's say you want to gather from a large audience, like in all the students in the school, all the users in the library. Now, to do this is not possible with interviews. It takes time. So usually we get questionnaires. Now, nowadays, the technology has advanced. We can use Google Forms, for example, right? Then to create reports, we need different document samples. Like, for example, if you take a library may, keep cards, reports. For example, how many, students use the library for this month. Okay, what are the books, list of books, how many of them have returned during this month, how many have not, about the fines, everything. We can have different reports. Now for that, we have to keep copies. And the final one we call prototype, right? Prototype means, we will get, for example, how the system looks, right? Different prototype. Like how the system look, you can give the sample, or you can create a sample interface and get, get the opinion, right? So that is another way to do this. Right now, let me share one example. So here is one example. You create, simple interface, and maybe you can share with the principal, get their opinion, right? Now, this is not the real interface, but, you can say, okay, so here is where the logo comes in. Here is the home, right? Here are the topics, and this is the place where you have the images. And then, likewise, you can, give the idea, like you use different prototypes, right? And that can be like a storytelling. Now, for example, in some places, we will draw exactly how this system look like as, graphical way, so that, the users have a clear picture what they are going to get, right? Even sometimes, nowadays, now let's say you are designing a web page. The web page, how it appears in different places are different. Now, for example, in a mobile, you can say this is how it look like, right? You can say, okay, in a tab, this is how it look like. In the desktop environment, this is how it look like. So users have a good understanding what they are going to get. So you can have a small version of the final product could be used for this purpose. Right. Now the next one is designing the solution. Now designing means, now once you actually collect information, you can design the solution. The first one is you have to identify the software and software architecture. Okay, what kind of a software are you going to use? It's very important, right? It's very important. Now, for example, if you take, different types of software used, right? Now, let me share, for example, now, for example, Facebook. Okay, what are the software technologies were used for this? You can see as a dynamic programming language, they have used PHP, React. As a database, they have used Cassandra, and so on. And you can see in here, there are different, software systems. They use different stack of, technologies, the software to build this information system, which means you can see the choices are different. And when you're designing, you have to decide, okay, what technologies we should use and why, that you need to understand. And for example, for the same task, there are, multiple software available. Now, for example, backend where the servers are running, You can have different types of software solutions that you can use. For web, you have set of different technologies there, right? And then, for example, if you're building Android systems, mobile systems, then you have a different selections. Similar goes with Apple. So you have to use a different software stack. So which means you have to select these things, right? So that means you should understand, like, okay, what are the software that we need to use? It's very important. And this is called identification of, right, software and software architecture. Then user interface, what user sees on the screen. Right now, for example, let me give you one more example for this. We have already seen earlier about how the system look like, in different devices. Similarly, this is like something that you are going to learn when you learn the visual interfaces with web development. This is called CSS Garden. And then, this is same content, but we are using different style. So this is one style. Let me click this one. This is another style. Same content, you can see, right? And then another style. Another style. Right? Same content, different styles. You can see how things were changing, and users get a clear idea what they may expect, right? So this design decision should be taken. Right. Then data storage. Now, like what we have seen earlier, we can see how databases are developed. Now, for that also, mainly we are using different modeling techniques. Let me give you one example. So this is what we call ER diagrams. Where in database development, in the beginning, we develop the structure of the data. Now, for example, this is like represents a kind of a table and all these attributes of the fields. And then this is another one. And then we have a relationships, one to many. And then, once you have these, you will get all the ideas together. Then you can transform it to a set of tables and their, relations. Right? So this is database development, and data storage again comes under this. Then identification of main hardware, right? Main hardware. Like what are the hardware systems that we need for the system to use? Nowadays, trend goes from our own premises to the, cloud systems.